Yes, hello there, you're waking up to Ireland AM. It's Sunday morning, which means you've every excuse to just stay in the jammies and watch a bit of telly.
Oh, I'd like to be doing that myself. Now, coming up, Airbnb listings rocket in Dublin despite the homeless crisis. We'll have that story and everything else making today's papers.
In sport, buckle up for the big one. Yes, it's All Ireland final day.
Wonder who you're rooting for today. Now, from flying ants to creepy crawlies, we've advice on keeping your house pest-free this summer. And
15 years on and one Academy Award later, one star and singer Marketa Irglova will be joining us.
And we'll be joined by the comedian whose poor choice of words on Instagram nearly gave her mammy a heart attack. Alison Spittle will be revealing all after 11.
All right, what's going on with you, Katia?
Good morning, folks. So we'll be here at the catwalk before 10. I'm joined by Mandy Maher. What have we got coming up?
So this morning it's all about transitional pieces. So it's going really from summer into autumn. So pieces that we can wear right through, which I think we could have done for the last couple of weeks, really.
Yes.
But so it's really exciting to see some new pieces coming in because we're all dying to see what's going to be coming through. So we've got some lovely pieces this morning from Carrickdown coming up.
I'm excited. My wardrobe does need an update. So that is what we've got coming up on the catwalk this morning. But back over to you guys.
It's good to see Mandy wearing our Dublin colours. Oh, the big day that's in it today. Come on,
go down well and go away, though.
There better be some green and gold somewhere. There'll be trouble later on.
It's banned. It's banned. Anyway, let's check on the news you're waking up to today. Here's Anne O'Donnell.
Thanks, Martin. Good morning. Well, the Russian president has said he does not reject the idea of peace talks with Ukraine. Well, Vladimir Putin was speaking following a meeting of African leaders in St. Petersburg and says that both the African and the Chinese initiatives could serve as a basis in the search of peace.
The African initiative, in my opinion, can be the basis of some process aimed at the search for peace, like the Chinese initiative. They do not claim that their initiative contradicts or competes with others. In general, the conversation with African leaders was long and substantive. We probably talked for an hour and a half.
Well, Russian authorities say that 3 Ukrainian drones attacked Moscow in the early hours of this morning, injuring 1 person and prompting a temporary closure of one of 4 airports around the Russian capital. The Russian Defense Ministry referred to the incident as an attempted terrorist attack. Well, July 2023 is set to officially become the hottest month on record, and heatwaves have scorched many corners of the globe, including across Europe and North America. However, in parts of the US, the searing heat is starting to ease.
The month of July has seen extreme heat throughout Europe, North America and beyond, with experts saying it is likely the hottest month our planet has ever seen. Deadly wildfires spread across Italy, Greece, Algeria and neighbouring countries in recent days, with temperatures stuck in the mid to high 30s. In the US, high temperatures are also persisting on the East Coast. In New York City, residents are struggling with the new heatwave that has brought with it fears that low-income communities will be the hardest hit.
These areas tend to have many fewer trees and much more infrastructure like parking lots and roads in them that actually absorb more of the sun's energy and then raise the air temperature in these neighborhoods relative to higher tree canopy areas in the same city.
However, some much needed relief is on the way as the brunt of the extreme heat that has been choking the area is expected to ease this weekend. Even with a few days left to go, this month is believed to be the hottest ever, and scientists say there's a chance that 2023 will go down as the hottest year since the record started in the mid-19th century. Hannah Lamass, Virgin Media News.
Well, members of the public are being urged to avoid the area around O'Connell Bridge and Trinity College, Dublin today on the All-Ireland final day, as a protest is planned in the city centre. A food courier strike is taking place at around 4 at the Spire, while throw-in is at 3:30 p.m. And those travelling for the match as well should note that traffic management measures will also be in place. And it comes as the Bray Air Display is on as well today, with motorists advised to pre-book parking in designated areas out in Bray. And Irish Rail are also warning that high demand is expected on all rails. Existing rank and file Garda members need to be deployed to the streets to keep communities safe. That's according to the group representing ordinary members of the force. Well, the spotlight has been on safety in the capital since an attack on US tourists over a week ago now. The Garda Representative Association says until enough Gardaí are recruited, those in the force must be better used to protect citizens.
The situation on the streets of Dublin is quite serious, where we see the falling numbers of Gardaí really impacting on the level of service that's available and the visibility of a police presence. So the long-term solution is obviously more Gardaí. That cannot be delivered in the short term. So in the short term, we need to use the Gardaí we have more effectively and see them released from onerous, repetitive bureaucratic tasks and have them on the streets doing what they want to do, keeping communities safe.
A vigil will be held this afternoon to mark the death of Sinead O'Connor. The event is being organised by Rosa Socialist Feminist Movement and it will be taking place at Bernardo Square on Dublin's Dame Street and will be paying tribute to Sinead's music and her activism. And it's time now for a check on the weather.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
This afternoon we'll see some bright and sunny spells across north and east of the country, with scattered showers elsewhere and temperatures ranging between 15 and 17 degrees. This evening then we'll see the rain turning heavy in parts of the west and northwest, with a chance of spot flooding and temperatures running from 15 to 18 degrees. And tonight we'll see very mild and humid conditions with scattered outbreaks and persistent winds right across the island. Overnight temperatures will run between 15 and 17 degrees.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Now let's check on your morning paper, starting with the Sunday Independent. It leads with the headline, HSE halted probe into care home sex attacks by rapist. The paper reports that the HSE told a safeguarding team to stop their investigation into the scale of potential harm caused to nursing home residents by a healthcare worker convicted of rape.
The front page of the Business Post, it's got the headline, Ministers to pay high price to avoid pre-election unrest. The paper writes that the government is preparing to spend at least an additional €1.25 billion to secure industrial peace heading into next year's expected general election.
Over to the Sunday Times, which opens with Airbnb listings soar amid record homeless figures. It writes that there has been a 57% increase in Airbnb properties available to let in Dublin over the last year, while the number of homeless people in Ireland has increased by 25% in that time.
On to the tabloids, and the Irish Mail on Sunday leads with Sinead saved my life. The paper writes that a mother and former housekeeper of Sinead O'Connor has revealed how the recently departed singer once saved her life.
The Sunday Mirror opens with Sinead's Heart of Gold. The paper recounts the story of when Sinead O'Connor invited a 20-year-old fan with cancer to spend a week with her, something the fan's father called the best week of her short life.
Over to the Irish Sun on Sunday. It leads with the headline, Have you found a body yet? They write that suspected serial killer Larry Murphy asked Gardaí, have you found a body, when they quizzed him about the disappearance of a Kildare teen. And finally, the front page of the Sunday World reads, Cartel's Johnny Crash. The paper states that Nicola Morrissey's dreams of converting her luxury Malaga villa into a 5-star wellness retreat are in ruins 11 months after her husband, cartel money launderer Johnny Morrissey, was arrested in Spain.
Now, today marks International Friendship Day and was proclaimed with the idea that friendship between people, countries, cultures and individuals can inspire peace efforts and build bridges between communities.
So this morning, we'd love to hear about your friendships. Who are your best friends? How did you meet? What do your friends mean to you?
And if you've any hilarious friendship stories, we'd love to hear them too. Send us in your thoughts via WhatsApp. The number, as always, is 089 611 111. Best friend, who's your bestie? Do you have one?
Yeah, well, I would say best male friend would be my brother. Yeah, we've been best friends since we were kids.
Apart from your brother, though.
But we're bosom buddies.
Sometimes that's the case where you could actually be best friends with one of your siblings.
Well, most people would be, I think. Well, I
wouldn't tell my siblings like dating stories and like embarrassing things like that. That's for my friends. That's solely for the group chat.
Right.
You know, sometimes your best friend is the person who'd buy a bag of lime with you, and wouldn't tell anyone and never talk about it again.
They'd bring the shovel.
They'd bring the shovel and the bag of lime and they'd never talk about this again.
They wouldn't even ask who it was.
No, that's it. That's the kind of best friend everyone needs.
Oh, yeah, no, we've got a few of them as well.
Yeah, see, they're the ones I'm talking about.
But I always judge, I've got some really good friends that I love very much, but I mightn't see them for 6 months. I mightn't see them for nearly a year, but when I do see them, it's like I saw them yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, you just pick up.
I think that's how you know they're your bestest friends. Like my best friend Annabelle, like we probably talk like once every 3 weeks, but it's like a 12-minute voice. It's basically a podcast voice note. And then we'll meet up and like we could just chat for hours, like nothing has changed. But I think that is like the beauty of friendships. Like, you know, you can disappear and all the love is still there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great about it. What about you?
We love our friends. I have got 3 friends. That's about it.
Yeah. Oh my God, high five.
But in truth,
smaller
that's all
circle, the
most of
better.
us have.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a lot of acquaintances, but there's only a handful
Yeah,
of
there's
friends.
people who like you think they're your friend, and then when the you know what hits the fan, they're nowhere
They
to
disappear.
be found.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
nowhere to be found, and then you know who your true friends
It
are.
is quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All
Right.
right.
Yeah, that's
We
your
want to
deadline
hear
vote.
from you on that.
Yeah. So
Please
up
do.
next, we're chatting through the top stories making today's paper. See you for that in just a few minutes. You're very welcome back from Airbnb listings to Irish street crime. It's been a busy morning in the paper as journalist Emery Brennan and political reporter with the Irish Times, Jack Horgan-Jones, joins me with the latest. Now, good morning to you both. Thank you very much for joining us today. And unusually, we're leading with housing once again, Jack. Airbnb listings are after going through the roof, particularly in Dublin, which does not bode well for the many, many people who are without a home in this country.
Yes, and what's difficult here is that the backdrop to this, in a very immediate sense, is the rocketing rate of homelessness in the capital. So the Sunday Times has a good story this morning outlining how the number of listings on Airbnb in Dublin has increased by 57%, while the number of homeless people in Ireland has increased by 20%. So obviously that begs the question, and I think it's a fair and obvious one, of how many of these listings on short-term letting sites, which are obviously quite expensive and quite lucrative for the property owner in the short term, could actually find their normal and natural home in the normal run of things in the long-term rental sector, and how much is the short-term letting sector accentuating the problems in the rental sector, where people are obviously struggling to find accommodation, and when they do, it's incredibly expensive.
Emer, of course, and I know Ona O'Brien has talked about this now, about enforcing legislation to make sure that all the people who are doing these short-term lets have the appropriate permits in place, because a lot of them don't. They're putting it up on these websites and they don't have the licence for the short-term lettings.
He's looking for a clampdown on it, but realistically, very few, we know this from figures we've previously seen, are properly registered. So registered with their local authorities and have the correct planning permission in place. So the impact of it, when you think of it, like in Dublin, that's an extraordinary figure. I'm not big into statistics, but 57% increase in short-term lets and Airbnbs, while there's a 20% rise on the other side in homelessness in Ireland. It is just shocking when you think of it. And the commuter towns particularly, they're seeing big increases in the Airbnbs. So the likes of Maynooth, even as far away as Athy in County Kildare, you're seeing almost 50%, like well over 40% increase in Airbnbs. That's huge. What's going on? So we really have to kind of get to grips with the rules around that, the enforcement, and just to try and get some of those homeless women, children, men that are in emergency accommodation in particular, to get them out of that situation.
But I suppose money talks, and finding these platforms, Jack, perhaps is the only way to go here for not making sure these properties do have the right paperwork before they go ahead with the short term.
It is, and I mean, sometimes the most clear and obvious explanation or solution is the right one, and you're right, it is to find these places, but there is a confusing mishmash of overlapping pieces of regulation and legislation and intended new regulatory regimes, which have all been slowed down or paused or are undergoing further scrutiny by the European Commission, which means they won't be brought in until much after the intended date. And the net effect of all this is that we have a very threadbare, loose system of regulation. My colleague Olivia Kelly in the Irish Times had a piece in April. There has been just one conviction over a breach of the short-term letting legislation in Dublin, and that property that is linked to that conviction is still in the short-term letting.
So there's no enforcement really there.
And that's the problem. Listen, I live in Dublin City, and you can see it in the block I live in every day. There's really cases coming in and out and in and out and in and out. You don't know who's going to be there from one day to the next. And a lot of them I know do appear to be anyway short-term lettings. And it's quite not dangerous, but it's not when you hope to live in a residential area. You don't expect a lot of people to be coming and going all the time, which is a bit of a concern.
There's a lack of security there for people. I think that's awful if you don't feel that your home is your sanctuary. But as well, I think, as well as enforcement, we're going to have to look, the government are under pressure to look at the landlord. So it's not very palatable. They mightn't want to help the landlord because traditionally the landlord has been seen as the big bad wolf. But come budget time, maybe it is time to look at something as regards making it more attractive for small landlords who, let's face it, they're doing the Airbnb thing because they're making more money out of it and it's easier.
Anyway, speaking of people coming to Dublin on the Airbnb and anywhere else, says maybe they should think twice, according to a number of foreign embassies, Jack. A lot of them following the US in issuing warnings about dangerous Dublin. My goodness gracious me, it's like New York in the 80s.
Yeah, and the level of detail in there is quite surprising as well. So we had this piece in The Independent during the week which found that in the wake of that attack on that American tourist, who was obviously still in a very serious condition, that the American embassy had issued new travel advice to tourists. And several other embassies have done similar in the wake of that. The Spanish embassy referring to street fights, calling out specific areas of Dublin, including Portobello and Temple Bar, and also making reference to the Hutch Kinahan feud. So there's quite an impressive level of detail and research going into these things. I think, though, we do need to kind of take these things with a pinch of salt and say that, you know, this is similar to the kind of travel advice that we see handed out for other major European cities. I was looking online actually this morning, looking at the Department of Foreign Affairs travel advice for other big countries and other mainstream EU countries.
Okay, make us feel a little bit better about Dublin.
So in Italy, there's an increasing number of incidents where travellers have been drugged and subsequently robbed. There's a reference to something called highway pirates in Spain, and in France there's a reference to the ongoing threat of indiscriminate terrorist attacks. So
highway pirates?
Highway pirates, apparently someone who kind of rams into your car or engineers some kind of dispute with you on the road, and then they rob you or they take your insurance.
Isn't that just absolutely smashing? But then when you talk about things like the Hutch Kinahan feud, obviously they're not saying the tourists are in danger of that, but there's just, I suppose, the headline violence that has gone international since the American warning there last year. But when it comes to things like robbery and street fights particularly, and walking in inner city areas after dark or late in the evening, that's a major concern. And we know that now from gangs roaming around, gangs of teenagers roaming around that are causing a huge concern in the inner city.
It sure is, but as regards, I suppose, the tourists, how much attention do you pay to those advisories before you travel? You are more likely maybe to base your decisions on what your friends say, on what their personal experiences are. So let's hope that Arcade Míle Fáilte stays warm, stays welcoming, that things like keeping the streets clean and all of that is really important.
Clean, you don't want anyone attacking you on it. But they're not even talking about that. I mean, they're even warning about things like romance fraud in Ireland. I mean, if you're coming to Ireland to meet somebody, accommodation fraud, romance fraud, ATM, Wi-Fi, all of these things are being warned about here, and things that wouldn't even have entered my head before, Jack.
Look, I think there's a balance here to be struck, particularly when it comes to the northeast inner city. It's an area I was born in, and it's an area I live nearby still. And it's not an area that is particularly savoury in parts, and it is an area with its difficulties. But I think we have to caution against the kind of moral panic breaking out here as well when it comes to that part of town. I mean, I walk through it on my way to work every single day. And there's a lot of people that work and live there. And while obviously it has its fair share of problems, we have to beware about, painting places to be war zones or no-go areas or stuff.
And we have seen it before after the collapse of the Celtic Tiger. I worked on Talbot Street for a while. I worked in Temple Bar as well as a student. We had locks on the door of the Cultural Tourist Information Centre back then and buzzed people in.
I lived in Temple Bar at that point as well,
So we have been here before, but our image is really important, and I think really getting the Garda numbers up is the key thing.
Hopefully that 10 million in the short term will do some good that Helen McEntee has allocated to Garda overtime. Now, Leo Varadkar has rolled out the red carpet, allegedly, for 6 a.m. nightclubs by next summer, and that'll do the old dodginesses of Dublin loads and loads of good, won't it? Really, Emer? I mean, God.
Well, maybe the queue at the taxi rank might be a bit better. The taxi ranks around the country, but I'm not sure, Jack, if you have the stamina or I have the stamina to stay out until 6 a.m. I doubt very much. Don't think it's aimed at us. No, somehow not.
But
maybe you.
Who are they trying to appease with that, Jack, though?
Well, I think, in fairness, it is an overhaul of the licensing laws, which are 200 years old, 2 centuries old, and it's been on the books, or it's been in the post rather, for quite some time. So while this may look like a dramatic intervention, I've lost track of the number of times I've written stories about 6 a.m. opening.
Yeah.
You know, it has been in the ether for quite some time. And when you look closely at the fine print of this story, what the Taoiseach is actually saying is not the introduction of something new, it's actually a delay to an intended change that had been coming down the tracks. The hope had been to get this in for Christmas, and obviously the vintners will be delighted with that, but now it looks like it's going to be delayed, and he's talking about now next summer before it comes in. We were talking off air about when the next general election will be. I wonder will it be in before then?
Whenever that may be. But of course, it's not only the nightclub opening, the pub openings will be affected as well by this when it comes through.
They will, and I think, look, around the country, I'd say in some parts people will be happy with it. For others, it won't affect their business at all, because when it comes to things like the bills and keeping the doors open, like the cost of their electricity, the cost of staff, let's face it, who will be able to afford to keep their premises open and to serve far beyond midnight?
Actually, I know an awful lot of businesses down in my neck of the woods that are closing now because they can't deal with the overheads anymore, which is really, really sad. Viable businesses that just can't do it anymore. So you'd wonder, unless something happens with the cost of running a business these days, if this will actually go ahead. Thank you both very much for joining me this morning. Now, up next, we're going through all of yesterday's GAA, and of course, just in case you didn't hear, there's a match on somewhere, I believe. Who cares? I don't have to Cork. Bye.
Very welcome back. With the weather we've been having this July, this is tough to pick an outfit that will keep you protected from the rain, but won't have you backed in the heat.
As stylist Mandy Maher joins us with some of her favourite looks for the months ahead. Thank you so much for joining us. It's the weirdest weather. It's sweaty, humid, rainy, the whole lot, all the seasons in one day, and I'm sick of trying to get dressed for it. So you've got some expert tips for us today.
I sure do, and all of our looks today are from Carrickdone, but we were saying earlier that it's all about the transition, going from literally from summer now into autumn. But of course, what summer did we have? But anyway, they're bringing in new stock, of course, every week into Carrickdone, and that's what's great about the pieces today, because these are going to bring you right through into the autumn, which is great.
And it can't go wrong really with accessories. I love a bit of bling.
I know, don't we all? I think all those girls are loving the bling big time. But we're starting off with these gorgeous little hoop earrings, and as you can see, there's a gorgeous little orange detail in that, because it's going to pick up with our accessories with the bag. But it's very, very simple. I love it because, like that, these literally you can wear them all the time, whether you want it for the daytime or to go through to night time as well.
Yeah, the earrings are lovely, and of course picking up on a little more bling on that necklace. We can see it there. Is that one or a two piece?
It's actually a 2-layer one chain necklace from Night and Day Jewellery, and isn't it lovely?
I'll get that myself now. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, bold, especially with the neckline.
Yes, absolutely.
That the blazer is giving.
Yeah, and it works really, really well. And again, like that, I just find something like this type of a piece, it can go with absolutely anything. And I think that's always important when you're choosing items for particularly accessories. They never go out of fashion, really. They're things that you can always reuse continuously.
And what about our hero piece, this gorgeous blazer?
Yes, with this beautiful blazer, I'm absolutely loving this. And we had said it before we came on here, it's very Chanel inspired, and you were bang on with that, Katja. It really, really is. And you see it here in this beautiful different tones of the whites and the blue and a little bit of powder blue. And of course, I'm wearing it myself actually in the royal blue this morning, which we had a little bit of a tiffle down below in the change room earlier because we swapped jackets. So we won't say any more on that one. But I'm loving the gold brass button as well. Isn't it lovely? It's very elegant,
especially
and
with the jewellery and everything paired with it.
And the scalloped neckline
really
in the top underneath is quite flattering as well.
Isn't it? It's beautiful, and it has, as you can see as well, it has that little cap sleeve lace detail to give that extra little kind of a feminine touch to the top as well, which works again really, really well. And it's simple, and as you see yourself, it's so hard to know what to wear with items with the heat and then you're getting cold another second. But this is really, really beautiful.
Yeah. That bag is a lovely pop of colour then, just to contrast with the navy of the jeans.
Absolutely, and loving this gorgeous orange bag. And of course, Carrickdone are well known for their accessories. I'm sure lots of colours to come in this, but I thought the orange worked particularly well with the mixtures of the blues and whites this morning.
And it picks up the earring as well, which is lovely. Very coordinated all together, man.
We were getting all on, and then
you're on the ball today.
Gorgeous jeans then as well.
That's what's with all the blue and white with you today. I wonder
professional colours.
Is it looking like we're very Dublin orientated here today? I'm nearly getting a complex after Martin King saying it to me earlier. But here we're looking at this gorgeous, it's starting again with the actual earrings, and the earrings are a little T-bar earring, which are quite simple, they're a lovely little earring. They come in the gold as well, but we have them here in the silver this morning.
Okay. And the necklace matching.
Absolutely, and we have it then with this simple little necklace as well. And again, like that, sometimes with accessories, I will give a styling tip. Be careful with what you're wearing, because it can either make or break an outfit.
Yeah.
That's what I would always say when we're adding jewellery.
Now, this biker jacket is a lovely soft fabric as well, and I love the way it's almost like it's the comfort of a cardigan, though, with the structure of a jacket.
Absolutely, Elaine, and it's here in this, actually in the winter white, which has literally just arrived in store with Carrickdone. And it's Carrickdone are always known for their biker style jackets. They will carry an array of these coming through now for the season in different colours. But I'm loving this. Okay, is it going to be a little bit harder probably to keep clean? It will be, but by God, does it look well, and that's what I love about this.
And the winter white is lovely and on skin tones as well, most skin tones.
And the contrast, even with the blue dress. Where's this blue dress from?
And the blue dress, all look from Carrickdone, and that's simple. Again, like that. Do you know the way sometimes like that, what do we wear? Dress like this, pop it on if we're heading off for lunch, going out with the girls, and it works absolutely perfectly. Or a great little holiday piece, and it did not need any ironing, which is a big plus, don't we? Us girls know what that's exactly like. But I'm loving it. And again, like that, it's quite simple.
Yeah. And the bag, very, very handy. You fit a multitude of stuff in that, and it's so small as well, and it can go crossbody, which is very handy as well.
It's a great travel bag. And I know even when you're going shopping, it's lovely just to have a crossbody. Put in your mobile phone, your wallet, and off you go. Because really, what else? A lippy, of course.
Yeah.
Very important.
Of course, you can't. Your powder as well. A bit of powder, a bit of lipstick, off you go.
Yes, absolutely.
And next, what are we looking at here? It's monochrome. I like this.
So we're staying away from the blue now.
Yeah, we decided to go a little bit more different. So this time we're going with the monochrome look. Monochrome always, to me, it screams chicness and expensive looking, and that's what I love about this. It really, really works quite well. The jacket, in the biker style jacket, again, beautiful piece, and again, like that, it's something that you'll have in your wardrobe for years. It's never going to date.
Yeah.
Because it's just literally is a piece that's timeless, as I just say, and that's what I love about this.
And of course, moving down to the top.
And then with the top,
neck detail.
yeah, isn't it quite nice? It's this very unusual collarless style top, but again, like that, it's actually a new print that's just coming through for the season. They actually have this as well in the trousers.
Oh,
which,
wow.
if you're daring to go the two-piece on it, you could go the two-piece, which is quite nice.
Would you describe that as a batwing?
Yes, it would be. Yeah. And again, like that, it's very flattering. I'm loving it, and it's different. And as I said, you could wear it with the bottoms matching if you wanted to.
But these bottoms here, are these high-waisted sort of flares? They have a different cut to them.
Absolutely, high-waisted, very simple trousers again like that, and they have them in a couple of colours. But again, we went with that kind of off winter white looking, and it's very smart. Looks really, really well.
Yeah, and that fabric as well on the top specifically is quite easy to wear, and it's a non-ironing one, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's it.
You can put that in a ball in the
absolutely.
bag.
It's a big plus. And then we just teamed up, of course, with this beautiful little bag then as well to match the whole.
Absolutely gorgeous. That fits. And does that come with a strap, a shoulder strap as well?
It does indeed. There's a strap inside. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely lovely. And there is something quite elegant about the monochrome, I have to say. The black and white. It
always looks well.
Reminds me of My Fair Lady, you know, Liza Doolittle, that whole thing. It always screams very chic.
Always looks well. Always.
Lovely. Now.
And our final look, we're rocking it up a little bit more dressier this time in this gorgeous little number.
What colour is that jacket? Anyway, we'll go to that in a second. We'll start with the earrings.
Starting with the earrings, we decided to go a little bit more dressier and blinging it up a little bit more, but I'm loving the earrings because the earrings are actually picking up all the colours that are in the dress here this morning. They're from Night and Day Jewellery. Night and Day, of course, a wonderful Irish brand as well, which is nice to note. And, of course, this beautiful little pendant matching.
And would that come in a set for a gift or something?
You can get them in a set, but they're actually sold separately as well, so it's up to yourself, but which is quite nice.
And what about this jacket and the dress?
And the biker jacket, it's navy. It is French navy. It's a French navy. Yeah, and actually you do have to look to see whether it's black or it is, but it is a French navy. Again, the biker styles, and as I said, Carrickdone always are brilliant when it comes to different of these jackets. Year in, year out, they have them all year round.
Yeah, and the gold detail on the zip detail there is absolutely beautiful. Lovely? It really blings it up a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and they can have that in the silver as well if you wish to. This dress is a great little dress, and it's the feel of it. It's just a pity people can't touch it at the moment, but it's actually...
Mandy, I'm not going to go now and touching the models. I don't think we're allowed.
But anyhow,
We trust you, Mandy.
It's a really silky feel, and again, like that, it's travel friendly. And honestly, at this time of year, you want to be able to roll up a dress like that, pop it into a case, and away you go. And it's beautiful feel, as I said, and then teamed up then with this gorgeous little shoulder bag.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Now, Mary, he's got to run out the back now.
I terrified her.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you both
Mandy.
so much. Thanks a million. Thank you.
Now, still to come this morning, from insects to rodents, we learn how to get rid of those pesky house pests.
Plus, we catch up with Oscar-winning singer Margetta Erglova. We're back after this break. You're very welcome back to Ireland AM. If you're only joining us now, we hope you've enjoyed your lion.
Yeah, still to come. It's summertime and the living is not so easy, especially when you have insect problems. Yes, we'll be getting advice on keeping your house pest-free during the warmer months.
Does that just apply to insects? Anyway. And does she keep her Oscar in her living room or her dining room? We'll be finding out when we catch up with star of once, Margetta Erglova.
And the Irish comedian who has taken the UK by storm with her hours of soup-themed comedy. Yeah. Alison Spittle will be here with a spoon for all of us.
I would hope so. Cass, what are you up to this morning?
Good morning, guys. We're closing out July with another barbecue bonanza, because who needs the sunshine to have a good time, right? We can do it in the rain.
We've good spirits and the barbecue smoking, so all's good.
Exactly. Fiona, what have we got coming up later?
So barbecue smoked beef brisket.
Ooh.
Yes, so really slow cooked, so really tender and tasty.
So our bellies will be warm.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all that matters. Right, back over to you guys.
Now let's check on your morning paper, starting with the Sunday Independent. It leads with the headline, HSE halted probe into care home sex attacks by rapist. The paper reports that the HSE told a safeguarding team to stop their investigation into the scale of potential harm caused to nursing home residents by a healthcare worker convicted of rape.
On the front page of the Business Post is the headline, Ministers to pay high price to avoid pre-election unrest. The paper writes that the government is preparing to spend at least an additional €1.25 billion to secure industrial peace heading into next year's expected general election.
Over to the Sunday Times, which opens with Airbnb listings soar amid record homeless figures. It writes that there has been a 57% increase in Airbnb properties available to let in Dublin over the last year, while the number of homeless people in Ireland has increased by 25% in that time.
On to the tabloids, and the Irish Mail on Sunday leads with Sinead saved my life. The paper writes that a mother and former housekeeper of Sinead O'Connor has revealed how the recently departed singer once saved her life.
The Sunday Mirror opens with Sinead's Heart of Gold. The paper recounts the story of when Sinead O'Connor invited a 20-year-old fan with cancer to spend a week with her, something the fan's father called the best week of her short life.
Over to the Irish Sun on Sunday. It leads with the headline, Have you found a body yet? They write that suspected serial killer, Larry Murphy, asked Gardaí, have you found a body, when they quizzed him about the disappearance of a Kildare teen. And
finally, the front page of the Sunday World reads, Cartel's Johnny Crash. The paper states that Nicola Morrissey's dreams of converting her luxury Malaga villa into a 5-star wellness retreat are in ruins 11 months after her husband, cartel money launderer Johnny Morrissey, was arrested in Spain.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, it is International Friendship Day. Happy Friendship Day, everyone. And we've been asking you for a bunch of texts, and you've sent in some gorgeous stories, but I'm going to give a quick shout out to two of my best friends, Hayley and Annabelle. Like you, Elaine, I've got 3 friends, and these are 2 of them. Best friends. The
other one's going to be on.
Shout out to Hazel, love you too. But Annabelle, I met her actually in a drama class when I was 4, but we never spoke to each other. We just sort of stared at each other across the room. And
was it a good stare, or was it?
It was always like we'd look at we'd laugh at the same things, but we were always too timid to talk to one another. And then I found the 2 of them were in the same base class as me in secondary school, and from 13 onwards, we've been friends ever since. So love yous loads. Yeah, we've got some great stories.
My best friend Claire, I first met at a ballet class when I was 4. But I actually didn't get really friendly with her until secondary school, because I didn't really see her again until then, because I kind of crashed and burned in the old ballet.
We were scoping them out.
Yeah.
What was it?
But she's my best Cork friend, and I have 2 best friends in Dublin. That would be Teresa and Eleanor. And then I have a couple of more friends knocking around the place. A couple of the lads who they know who they are. But that would be my core group. My posse, the whole...
The ride or dies.
The ride or dies, that would be... And of course my sisters. But you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family, even though I love you all.
It's very quick to point that out.
Yeah, love you all. But yeah, friends are important.
Mary sent a text in and said, I was best friends with a lady who was buried yesterday. So sorry, Mary. We were so similar in many ways, like sisters. She was older than me and Protestant, while I'm Catholic. We chatted about religion a lot and agreed on most things. I'll miss her terribly. Oh.
That's a good friendship.
That's a good
As they say, never discuss politics or religion.
That's, yeah.
Oh, I do both.
Yeah.
She does both.
She's really testing that.
And Kate from Cavan says, I'm an only child and my friends are my sisters and brothers. Right. There is one in particular where we might not speak for weeks, but when you do, we think we spoke hourly. Both my parents were passed away, my mum in 2009, my dad in 2014, and she arrived to sit with me just for support while I was going through the toughest time in anyone's life. She didn't even have to be asked. She just knew I needed someone and she was there.
Yeah, that's a friend.
That is a friend. When they just land there and you're like, why are you here? I didn't ring you. I just thought you needed me.
Yeah.
That's what a friend is.
Yeah.
That is great. Fiona says, my best friend to this day, I met on the first day of secondary school. We're in the same year, but not the same class. I had my lunch break with her every single day. As time went on, I was more and more embarrassed to ask her one fairly important question. What's your name? We were 3 months in at this stage and we were having lunch when a teacher came over and called her by her name. I eventually told her the story about 10 years later, but we laugh about it to this day. That's brilliant.
That's Fiona from Hair and Makeup. Love you. OK, now, in other news, guys, how do you take your milk?
My milk?
Yeah, so as we know, we have this alternative milk and regular cow's milk. And a new report by Safe Food has found that 1/3 of Irish people regularly drink dairy alternative milks now.
Right.
Now, a huge part of that, like 44%, are 15 to 24-year-olds, and they will consume alternative milk regularly. But here are their motivations. Only 20% thought plant-based milks were healthier than dairy because, you know, the sugar levels.
Yeah.
And now 18% just wanted a change, 15% preferred the taste, and 14% had dairy intolerance, and the rest just believed to be better for the environment. Now, myself, I got on the alternative milk train long before it was a trend because we grew up with my younger sister having terrible eczema. So Mom was trying everything. And she was like, right, you're going to have coconut milk today, no dairy in the house. So we always had rice milk, coconut milk and almond milk. And I'd actually have it with my cereal now.
Well, there is a school of thought that says that the only creatures that should drink cow's milk are cows.
Yeah.
But it's made to make calves fatter the quickest time possible. But the thing, there's a bit of a fallacy as well when it comes to the alternative milks, because I thought almond milk was way, way better, blah, 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 and it's vegan and it's all that sort of stuff. But in order to pollinate, sorry, I'm going on a tangent, in order to pollinate the almond bushes or trees, whatever they are, they have to bring beehives in. And in their tens of thousands all over the world. And that is actually not, you're using an animal to force the production of this almond crop. So that's technically really bad for the bees. And so it's not all that good. So I'm sticking to the cows.
And can I just add, nutrition-wise, now, they do say most alternative milks are better for the environment, but now only some of them have the necessary amount of vitamin D and only some of them have the necessary amount of calcium. So just make sure, while there are an amazing range of alternative milks, choose wisely.
Yeah. They're not really milk. They're just squished. Squished almond water stuff. I mean, milk is milk from a mammal, and the last I checked, no nuts or oats or coconuts were mammals.
Well, if it saves me calories, I'm having it.
Oh, really? Lovely. Now, this is one that caught my eye this morning. We're speaking of eating and drinking and milk and all that sort of stuff, but would you dine out on your own? That's the thing now. There's been a new article in The Guardian is asking whether or not you would feel comfortable going to a nice restaurant by yourself in the evening, having your dinner. It was revealed last week that a 2 Michelin star restaurant in London's Regent Street was charging solo diners double the price per item, because they're taking up an entire table. Like I'm not going to curse, but I nearly did. I'm sick of this solo supplement bull.
Well, I know, but
it's annoying.
But
if you go on holidays,
hotels.
you pay double. If I remember years ago, I used to go seeing solo supplement. I mean, so if you're sitting in a restaurant using the same ingredients, because there's not 2 of you there, you're being charged double.
No.
I am not a happy
So
bunny.
does that mean if 2 people sit down at a table for 4, they should pay for 4?
See, but that wouldn't happen, would it?
that happened. No, but it does happen in restaurants where people will be put out at a booth or a table for
I'll just
4.
sit at home on my couch with a takeaway from now
No,
on.
you go to the restaurant and have your dinner and only pay for 1. We'd love your thoughts on all this stuff too, especially the restaurants.
And more friendship stories.
Yes, we want to hear them.
6 111.
OK, after the break, from ants to creepy crawlies, we've advice on keeping your house pest-free. Stay with us. We're back after this break. Welcome back. It feels like when it comes to summer, keeping the creepy crawlies at bay is a constant battle.
It is indeed. And Colin Moore from Rentokil joins us now with a few helpful tips on how to keep those pesky pests out of your home. You're very welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I know we're coming towards the end of summer, but this is still the season where a lot of people are dealing with pests in their home.
Indeed.
What type of pests and insects are on the rise for this time of the year?
Mainly, well, wasps would be most prevalent right now because they move from a protein diet to suddenly a sugary diet, and that's where they become a pest because they're attacking us around our beer and about our wine, and we might leave a juice box open or something like that. So they become very pesty around this time of the year.
Okay, because you need to open your doors or your windows because the house just gets too warm. Even on a dull, wet day,
Yeah,
temperatures are still
it's
up.
quite muggy. Yeah, so you have to keep that. So it's quite irritating, but they are the gardener's friend. So I leave them alone at the beginning of the season, but then they can become just a little bit pesty then afterwards.
Is it because we're probably creating the perfect habitat? Like, what is the perfect habitat for flying ants or wasps? And
Well, with wasps, it's dry areas, so your attic space, nice and warm. They'll under the eaves of a building, under a roof. You find them in your sheds, and of course their nests are made of paper. So the female will scrape a bit of timber and start to produce a little bit of a paper nest, start the young, and it just gets bigger and bigger over the season.
If you find a nest, I'll get a professional to sort it out.
Well, definitely, yes.
Yes. I'm not trying to put business your way, but what I'm saying
but
is...
we've had people who tried to burn them down.
Yeah,
It's not a good thing.
Oh, the shed's on fire.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Get a professional
Well done,
to sort it out. Flying ants, it's that time of year.
It is. Yeah, so ants, the one that we're talking about is Lasius niger. It's the common black garden ant. And what happens when you see them taking to the wing, they're actually, they're mating on the wing.
Yeah.
So it's quite a...
Don't stand under them.
No. It's their nuptial flight, and it happens over a series of days. It's not just one big event. Yeah. And what happens is then the fertilized females become the nests, the future nests. They'll go off and start to hibernate over the winter, and then the rest of the workers will die off.
But they land. I remember talking to Aidan and Leona about this before. They land and break their wings off. Then form the colony.
They do, yeah. They bite the wings off. Yeah.
I know it. And they do multiply quite quickly.
That's
what they're up there doing.
They do.
They're joining the Mile High Club.
You're interrupting them.
So don't be going, what?
Stay out.
How would you like me doing that to you?
Well, I don't know. Like, speaking about flying ants now, I think of mosquitoes as well, but it's something I just never would have associated with Ireland, and I think a lot of people are on the same boat. But it is one of the worst ones out there.
Mosquitoes are. We've nearly 60 species of mosquitoes in Ireland. We don't have any harmful ones.
Yeah.
They may appear at, around airports and stuff, but they've just been transported through the plane. Oh. But we do have Culex pipiens is our most common species. But it's things like, to try and get rid of them, you try and get rid of their harbourage. So where are they reproducing? So it's anything like standing water. So the larvae, if you look at, go home, look at your garden, and you'll see maybe a plant pot that's stuffed with it's blocked and it's full of water. You'll see little things moving around. It's probably mosquito larvae.
And what should we do? Are there any home remedies for it? Or
I think, to be honest, it's getting rid of the standing water. So I brought in some items here from my garden, and it's things like upturned lids, bins, buckets, things that you don't use. Empty the water.
Okay.
All right. Okay. It is the end of July. And look, there's a chill in the air. When that chill gets that little bit colder, that's when we have to start worrying about different sorts of pests.
Yes, the furry type.
The furry type.
Yes.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah.
Never nice.
Not good when an infestation begins with mice or rats, especially rats.
It's trying to keep them out.
Yeah.
So we sort of use a sort of an ERDM, exclude them first, then restrict their food source or the water source, destroy them, the D, and the M is monitor. Keep an eye on all of those things that you've just done.
Right. What are ways that people might be able to tell there is a presence of rats or mice in their
Noise is one, Kat.
Yeah.
So scraping, you can see droppings. So the droppings would be, things like 12 millimetres. They're tapered in black droppings. You could also see damage, tail swipes, smear marks where the body of the mouse, the rodent or the rat has moved over a particular area, an entry point into your building, and it has left grease marks.
Okay, so
it's a telltale sign.
If flour is one of the ways to do this, to find out
Yes.
they're there.
Yes, indeed.
Because
Yes.
they've got to go across
You can
it,
see the
they will
footprints.
leave a trail.
Yeah.
What have you got here? Because you didn't just
Yes.
bring these along for fun. Is
No.
this to stop the
So
pests getting in?
It is. So this is knitted mesh. This is stainless steel, 300 gauge, and it's we can do that proof around your building. So I had a look at the building here. So in buildings around like this, where you've got cladding, you can actually seal up the building from entry from ice, because there's a rain shield that goes and hits either soft ground or hard ground, and of course it's an entry point for your rodents. So you can tack it up, screw it on, keep it nice and neat and tight.
Yeah, I know.
Stop them coming in.
Because even though you might not think it, they can climb.
Yeah.
And
They're very
if
sneaky.
you've got any hedging or if you've got any of that stuff that crawls up your house, or just provided them with a ladder.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this might sound like a silly question, but is there a certain time where we should be opening our windows and doors and closing them, especially around this time of year?
Not really.
Is it to do with heat at all?
With the rodents?
No, let's say with insects and,
Okay.
the likes of...
Not really.
Yeah.
You can get fly screens. You go to America, they're all over the place.
I have one on my balcony, like one of the netted kind of curtain thingies, like on the door, because the amount of flies we get in on the third floor. But another question, just speaking of summer, we do have some sort of presence of foreign insects. Have you noticed a peak in that?
We do get periodically. Well, we're pest controllers, so we'll get things, we'll be called to the docks and we say, here's the poisonous frog here, or there's we had one in the UK recently. But we do get, there are invasives. We have our National Biodiversity Centre that looks after that. There's few bits of legislation that have identified over 150 species that they don't want in the country.
Yeah.
So things like oak processionary moth is on our radar. We get that in the south of England. We might have had it in Dublin, I think, in 2021, something like that. We also have the Asian hornet. Hornets aren't native to Ireland, and they are not established, but we're keeping an eye out for them.
They can get into your case. And what I found fascinating when I was reading about you and your appearance on the show today was never unpack your case on your bed.
That's something I learned.
Ooh. Yeah, the bed bugs
Scary.
now. Bed bugs are talking. That's my favourite pest, actually. So bed bugs, a female could produce about 300 eggs, and what they do then is
Starting to itch.
they feed on you, and so then the nymphs will then go back to a crack in a crevice. It could be a picture frame, it could be a telephone, it could be a wardrobe, and they'll digest that. They'll poo and they'll leave signs of their presence. It'll be like coffee grounds in the corner of the bed. So every time I go on holidays, I just tear the bed apart, look for signs of bed bugs. The bed is a mess, and I don't leave anything.
This is what's in his case.
Right,
when he goes on holiday.
that is a tip to take. Colin, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for chatting to us today. Anyway, your house will be safe now.
Come on, Richie.
After all that. Up next, we'll be Falling Slowly. A singer-songwriter, Marketa Irglova, joins us. Don't go anywhere.
That was Marketa Irglova's new song, The Answer Is Yes. To welcome you back, not only is she an Oscar winner, she's been nominated for not one, 2 Grammy Awards. Not too shabby.
It's all right, isn't it? Marketa joins us now, but first let's remind ourselves of one of her most famous songs.
Take this sinking boat and port it home. We've still got time. Raise your hopeful voice. You have a choice. You make it
Such a gorgeous song.
Absolutely
Marketa,
beautiful.
great to see you. Gorgeous room, by the way.
Thank you. I like to see you guys too.
It's 15 years since that delighted our ears for the first time. Hard to believe. What's it like? Because you're working with Glenn again.
Yes, yeah, it's been really, really nice actually. He came over here to Iceland. We did a couple of shows in Dublin, and it just kind of feels like the right time. You know, I was always hoping that we would at some point manage to create more music, and it feels really nice, and it makes sense that it's happening now somehow. It feels like the right time.
Yeah, I remember the performance actually in the Oscars. We can see it there. I mean, it's almost like you could hear a pin drop in the auditorium. When you first performed that song, and even during the film, did you have any idea how special it was?
I think both Glenn and I felt that there was something special about the song when we wrote it. You know, not in this way or that it would ever get nominated for an Oscar or win it. No way. Nobody expected that. But there was something special in it. We felt it every time we played it live. There was a response from the crowd that was, you know, very special, very warm, and people immediately sort of started asking to hear that song at concerts. So, yeah, maybe a part of us knew that there was something special, but we couldn't have known what awaited us.
You know, with anything that comes our way as viewers, as listeners, as music lovers, we want more of it. So now that you guys are recording again, you know, could there be a sequel to Once? Maybe Once Again?
Well, I remember it being sort of the idea being thrown around a few times in the past few years. John Carney, the director, I think he plays with the idea every now and then. And I remember being asked a few years ago if I'd be up for the idea, and I remember saying yes, in theory, and then I never heard anything more. So, I mean, maybe it could happen. Who knows? I've always been open to it, and I'll wait for John's call.
In other words, hurry up.
Yeah, I could do with another Oscar nomination, actually. Some more songs to write. But the moment when you won the Oscar, and of course the speech, and you were invited back up on the stage by Jon Stewart. I mean, what was that like? Because of course it was cut short at the start, and so it must have been pretty special.
It was very special. I don't know what happened that night, because nobody ever gets called back on stage. We all know that, all of us who watch the Oscars, people get sort of rushed off the stage because usually, you know, the song is on and you're like, please leave. And that's what happened with us. You know, I didn't know the mic was off, but it was just our time to go. And then they asked me back. I don't know what. I think it was the director's call, in fairness, because I asked afterwards, and there was like, yeah, he really wanted you to come back, and I'm grateful for it, because it was one of the most special moments in my life, and it seems to have been a special moment for other people who had seen it. You know, to encourage them and support them on their own path. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Well, yeah, it's moments like that at award ceremonies that kind of will lift things and will provide those memorable moments that we'll all remember.
Right.
Can I ask you, where is Oscar now?
Oh, it's just over there. I don't know if you can see it.
Hang on.
It's probably it's behind the sort of chimney.
But it's there.
Or whatever it's called.
It's not.
It's there on the.
Yeah. It's not keeping a door open. It actually does have pride of place.
No, it is here in the same room that my piano is, and it's actually beside the Oscar. There's this. I would get it if I wasn't, but it's a framed the Irish stamp that put Glenn and I on it. Was it a year ago? There was like an Oscar series of all the Irish people that had won an Oscar, and we were one of the stamps. So they sent it to me. The Irish Post sent me the framed sort of stamps, and it's beside the Oscar. I'm so proud of it.
Whatever about an Oscar being on a stamp is pretty impressive. I don't know.
That's a face you can trust if it's on a stamp. Definitely.
Now, you've a new song out as well. The Answer Is Yes. Tell us the story behind it.
Well, it's one of the songs that I had kind of written with a very clear intention, you know, that I sat down at the piano and there was already, the tour was booked with Glenn, and I really wanted to bring some new material to the tour. I thought it would be really nice, because on the last tour it was a mix of, you know, the old sort of Swell Season 1 songs that everybody knew, and then songs from our sort of solo careers or solo albums, if you like, and I really wanted us to have some new songs as the Swell Season. And so I sat down at the piano and I was like, I'd love to write a song that Glenn and I could sing together, like a nice duet that somehow summarized, you know, our path up to now, the past, and sort of celebrated that while also embracing, you know, the present and everything that's happening at this point. So I was really happy when the song arrived because it really embodied that for me, what I hoped to achieve with it. And then Glenn came over and we recorded it, and it was a really beautiful journey, and I'm so happy that it's out and that we were able to play it in Dublin just a couple of weeks ago.
It became like a community effort as well, though, when Glenn arrived into Iceland, because you got a lot of local people in, and we hope that after the Swell season that there are more gigs for us to look forward to.
I would sure hope so. I mean, I love playing with Glenn. There really is nothing like it for me, you know. I think these kind of musical connections that we make with people they're very special, and they might only happen once in your life. I mean, I know that I haven't met anyone that I enjoy playing music with as much as with Glenn. There's just something about it. I can't put a finger on it, but I think that it's something about the fact that like I bring a lot of sort of feminine energy into the mix, you know, and he's right there with this kind of masculine energy to support whatever I'm bringing to the table, and I can sort of hold his energy, and so it ends up being this kind of beautiful balance, you know, harmonious kind of union in music and spirit, actually, also because we have this kind of communication that's beyond words. It's very sort of telepathic, and we can follow each other wherever the other one is going, and we have each other's back, and that's very, very special. And so that's why I'm so grateful that we can collaborate again. Well, this time I sort of feel more like his equal than I would have all these years ago, because I had so little experience. You know, I was basically just trying to keep up with him, and he was sort of a lot of the time kind of carrying me, you know. But now I feel like I can stand on my own feet and I can bring something nice to the table, and it just feels really right.
Yeah. But I suppose the best songs and the most memorable songs, they come from simplicity, and the simplicity of a melody, a harmony, a piano, a guitar. And that's what I think comes out in your music, and it just melds so well together. Is that something that you love to reconnect with?
Yeah, I think simplicity is it's good in the sense that if it's sincere, you know, people connect to it more easily. Like if we make things personal, ironically, they become more universal, because you know, essentially we're all going through very similar experiences in our life on Earth, you know, and so somebody's sort of willing to show themselves on their journey, kind of without, you know, without any masks or caricatures. You know, you're just going like, here I am, this is my journey. It sort of makes people connect in an easier way, and yeah, sometimes, you know, even the musical arrangements, they don't need to be complicated, you know. Like you say, sometimes it's the simplest things that touch us the most.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of done out of seeing you in Eurovision, because, you know, you're from Iceland. So we know from Will Ferrell's movie that Icelandic people seem to love the Eurovision. You made a couple of attempts to compete in it.
Yes, I competed in the Icelandic one first. That was last year, and then I decided to try the Czech one this year. I mean, I have dual citizenship, so I was able to kind of. Oh wait, it was February, so it was actually. Yeah, it was this year. But you know, if you guys give me Irish citizenship, then I will compete for you as well.
We're doing the paperwork already, Marketa.
Definitely, we'd love to have you.
We'd absolutely love to have you. We haven't been doing so well, so we need Marketa Irglova to jump in and save us. Listen, great to talk to you.
I mean, yeah, great to talk to you as well. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
And a reminder to you that Marketa's recent single, The Answer Is Yes, is available to buy and stream now.
Up next, it's not raining yet, so we're going to risk it for a brisket and light up the barbecue. See you soon.
Welcome back. We're cooking up a storm on the barbecue now because it's still summer.
Is it?
In our heads, in my head at least, and no cloudy weather is going to keep us down.
I'm frozen. Anyway, Fiona Uema is here now with the perfect feast for the occasion. What are we having today, Fiona?
A barbecue, exactly, barbecue smoked beef brisket. So it's a cut of meat and we're slow cooking it.
Okay.
So I just put a bit of olive oil on it, so you can just oil it. Yeah. This is really popular in the States. So you'll see all the kind of barbecue guys in the States going crazy.
Beef brisket sandwich and all them, yeah.
And they have the big, barbecue smokers in there.
And there's all these secret recipes of the brisket. I mean, I've never known what the big deal is about it, but you're here to tell us all now.
I'm here to tell you all about it. And it's fairly basic. You go to your butcher, ask them for this cut of meat. And they generally, sometimes they don't have it on the front counters. They have to go around the back to get it.
Okay.
So don't be put off. You go into your butcher and you can't find it. I have a sea salt and seaweed.
And what part of the cow? What
explain that.
What part of the meat?
The underside of the cow. Below the
this area of the cow-ish. Okay, right.
I have a seaweed and sea salt seasoning here, but really, you could use cayenne pepper, paprika, cumin. You can use any kind of a spice that you like.
So it's just the dried seaweed there, lovely.
And sea salt. And then I have a Japanese 7 spice, and that has the bit of chili in it.
So because we're having a Japanese style salad with it, it's the seaweed is obviously perfect for
It's perfect.
The flavour.
And then
the next 2 for snuggle.
That's why I wore jumpers.
And some Japanese 7 spice here as well.
That spice on me.
Yeah, to warm me up. But this is, the trick is to just put on a pair of gloves or just use your hands and to just massage it into the meat. That's the big trick.
Massaging the meat.
Yes, exactly. Helps you de-stress and warm up.
Right.
But to keep it also out for about an hour, to bring it to room temperature, because it's all about getting the meat moist, and then to put it into your barbecue grill, just leave it in like that, and you leave it there for about 2 hours per kilo.
Yeah. And does that help in massaging the meat because it has to be too moist to go into the...
Exactly. So you're trying to really get it through into the meat so it doesn't fall off in the grill.
Yeah.
It absorbs, the flavour absorbs into it.
And the thing with having it slow cooked is it because it's so easy to cut and eat after? Is that the beauty of having it slow cooked?
It's to keep it moist because it's a tough cut of meat, and if you don't slow cook it, then it's not going to.
It's going to be like
you have
shoe leather, basically. You bounce it off the walls.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So what's up next?
I have one that I made earlier. I was up at the crack of dawn making this for you ladies.
Thank you very much. It shrunk.
This
was a smaller one because I was like, I'm not getting off that early. So this is about in and around 1.5 kilos.
Okay.
That's about 2. You could put in bigger. It depends how long you want to cook it or how much time you have.
So how long did you cook that for?
So I just over 2 hours.
Okay.
And then the trick is to leave it sitting for about another half an hour, just to let the juices flow into the meat.
And then would you wrap it, keep it in aluminium foil?
That's really important, to wrap it.
Trap the heat.
So I just said it would go really nice with pickle salad. So I'm going to show you how to make a very easy pickle salad. It's about 100 mils of rice vinegar, right? And then some sugar, Yeah, for the pickle you add sugar and salt, about 2 tablespoons of sugar and about a teaspoon of sea salt.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's basically your pickle. And put it in a jam jar or any kind of lunchbox you have. And what you want to do is absorb the sugar and sea salt into the vinegar.
Yeah.
So I have a cucumber here. I've halved it and I've scooped out the watery part.
Why did you scoop out the watery part? Now, does that affect the way it pickles?
Exactly. It'll dilute down the pickle. So then what'll happen is,
chopped cucumber.
The pickle won't be nice. It won't be concentrated enough.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I have here is cucumber, chop that. And then you can put that in with chopped red onion. I have some wakame seaweed here.
Okay.
You buy that in the shop dry, and I just added water to it to bring hydration back into it. Then squeeze it out and put it into your salad.
Okay.
Okay? So then you you use 1 onion, 1 cucumber, and a handful of seaweed for this recipe, okay?
And it doesn't need to be preserved in the jar for a certain amount of time to get that effect. It's like straight away.
So you
the
could
longer you put it in,
serve
the better,
this-
maybe.
Exactly. Like you could serve this if you're in a rush, and you will get a nice, lovely, refreshing flavour off it. But really, to get this effect, I've that there for 2 days. You can see the onions have really pickled and the cucumber.
Yeah.
And it's the I suppose the flavours of the meat against the pickle. They just complement each other.
So we can see them.
Exactly. Thank you.
But
So I'm actually going to. So I was cutting a little bit earlier. So
it's cooked the whole way through, and it's supposed to be kind of flaky, or
Yeah, so the top of it is nice and crispy, and then you just cut through thin slices.
Yeah.
And generally, you know, even in the States, well, you can put it in a sandwich, like you said, or you can just eat it like this.
Or you know, I'm getting the lovely smell off it now as well.
My favourite way to eat it actually is with a bit of sea salt and a squeeze of a lime over it. It's just really light and refreshing. So I'm just going to...
I was just about to say, it looks like such a simple dish, says you're one who can't boil an egg. But yeah, so just squeeze a bit of the sea salt, lime first, and then a bit of sea
Lime
salt.
on it,
Yeah.
bit of sea salt. You look like a gourmet chef.
Salt babe, that's me.
Oh, right, I might as well have a little try.
And you could serve it with a sandwich. There's some barbecue sauce there. If you wanted a bit to put barbecue sauce over it, you can do that as well. But I just really feel like the lime or lemon cuts through it. And a bit of sea salt really just brings the flavour out in the meat.
And the pickle makes it so refreshing.
Yes.
It really takes the heaviness off the meat. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely for a Sunday roast as well. You could serve it with potatoes. You know, you can really do it whatever way you want.
Is it an expensive cut of meat or is it reasonable?
It's actually reasonable cut of meat.
Yeah.
So, you know...
So if you do want to get your your iron intake, your red meat intake up, as long as you cook it long enough, it does the job.
Yeah, and my boys actually are watching an American programme at the moment, and all they talk about is brisket. So the kids think brisket's really cool.
Okay, that's a good thing, because
you know, they're obsessed with it. Yeah, because it's such an American thing, and it's starting to come over to Ireland now. So yeah, the kids will eat it as well, so it's a bonus.
That's lovely. Thank you so much,
Absolutely
Fiona.
delicious.
For full recipe details, they're up on our website, or of course, you can always visit fusedbyfionaema.com for more of Fiona's delicious recipes.
Now, still to come, she's one of the funniest people in comedy. Yes, Alison Spittle will be stopping by after this short break.
Welcome back to Ireland AM. It's coming up on 11 o'clock. Happy Sunday, and thanks for stopping by.
Still to come, from touching tributes for Sinead O'Connor to the return of everyone's favourite teenage turtles. We'll be looking at the best on the box this week.
And she's one of only a privileged few to be a member of an exclusive Soup group chat. We're going to find out more when we chat to comedian Alison Spittle. She'll be here with us in just a few minutes.
We compare 14 insurance quotes to get you the best deal. So choose chill and work smarter, not harder.
This afternoon we'll see some bright and sunny spells across north and east of the country, with scattered showers elsewhere and temperatures ranging between 15 and 17 degrees. This evening then we'll see the rain turning heavy in parts of the west and northwest, with a chance of spot flooding and temperatures running from 15 to 18 degrees. And tonight we'll see very mild and humid conditions with scattered outbreaks and persistent winds right across the island. Overnight temperatures will run between 15 and 17 degrees.
Chill Insurance work harder so you can work smarter. We compare 14 quotes to get you the best deal.
Now let's check on your morning papers, starting with the Sunday Independent. It leads with the headline, HSE halted probe into care home sex attacks by rapists. The paper reports that the HSE told a safeguarding team to stop their investigation into the scale of potential harm caused to nursing home residents by a healthcare worker convicted of rape.
On the front page of the Business Post is the headline, Ministers to pay high price to avoid pre-election unrest. The paper writes that the government is preparing to spend at least an additional €1.25 billion to secure industrial peace heading into next year's expected general election.
Over to the Sunday Times, which opens with Airbnb listings soar amid record homeless figures. They write that there has been a 57% increase in Airbnb properties available to let in Dublin over the last year, while the number of homeless people in Ireland has increased by 25% in that time.
On to the tabloids, and the Irish Mail on Sunday leads with Sinead saved my life. The paper writes that a mother and former housekeeper of Sinead O'Connor has revealed how the recently departed singer once saved her life.
The Sunday Mirror opens with Sinead's Heart of Gold. The paper recounts the story of when Sinead O'Connor invited a 20-year-old fan with cancer to spend a week with her, something the fan's father called the best week of her short life.
Over to the Irish Sun on Sunday, and it leads with the headline, "Have you found a body yet?" They write that suspected serial killer Larry Murphy asked Gardaí, "Have you found a body?" when they quizzed him about the disappearance of a Kildare teen.
And finally, the front page of the Sunday World reads, "Cartel's Johnny Crash." The paper states that Nicola Morrissey's dreams of converting her luxury Malaga villa into a 5-star wellness retreat are in ruins 11 months after her husband, cartel money launderer Johnny Morrissey, was arrested in Spain.
Now, as always, we love hearing from you, and it's International Friendship Day, so we're going to read a couple of texts that you guys have sent in. Sue Power says, "Since moving to Ireland from New Jersey 22 years ago, I've made friends who have been through my rocks and the tough times. Alice, Catherine, Denise, Nora and Teresa are their names. Life would be boring without them."
Joan from Blanchardstown says, "Oh, my best friend is my husband, Chris. Friends come and go, but he will be my forever."
Oh, Blanche. Love you.
Dave from Dublin, "I met my best friend in primary school back in 1992. We went through all of primary and secondary school together before going to different colleges. We wouldn't see each other for months on end with family and work, but now that we're a bit older, we're in the habit of going to the Shelbourne matches together every Friday and are as close as ever." See, friendships, sometimes you don't see each other for a long time, but when you do...
Yeah, it's like you
saw
never...
them an
Yeah,
hour ago.
yesterday.
The best ones.
Martin from Clondalkin says, "My best friend is probably a fella named Don, who I've known for 53 years now. 53. He never lets me down. He's always at the end of the phone if I need him, and I've been through some bad times over the past few years. It's his birthday next month, so happy early birthday, Don."
Have a good one. And dining out, we're talking about people being charged extra in one particular restaurant in London, it has to be said, for taking up a table for two, and so they're being charged double. Just crazy. Audrey says,
Abomination, thank you.
I love my solo dates, so that's terrible.
"Who is to say you can't dine out in your own madness? Get on with your life." And Derek says, "I could do almost anything else solo. Holidays, movies, concerts, but not a restaurant." I don't know. He's not too keen on
But
that.
people might find it a bit awkward if they don't want to sit on their phone or read a book, or I might just sit with my thoughts. It's like being on a bus with no music. You just kind of people watch.
But this story was born out of this this thing about a restaurant in London who's charging people who dine on their own double
Because
for
you're
taking up two
a table for
spaces.
two. All right. Can you believe this, right? Now, we know the Women's World Cup is on at the moment, and we got a cracking ladies' final to look forward to in the All-Ireland Championship in 2 weeks' time when Kerry and Dublin clash in that side of the sport. Only 6% of women are currently playing sport compared to 16% of men. You surprised to hear that?
No.
Is this like in the school? Generally.
Across school and into adulthood, only
Team
6%.
sports, yeah.
Is it team sports or just
it says organised sports.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a lot of women who are competing in solo sports.
I mean, if you're going out for a jog, that's a sport.
Yeah, I think a lot
kind
of like the runners and I don't know what else would be considered solo sports, not my department. But I do believe that, like, it is a believable amount because I know a lot of kids growing up, it's usually the lads that'd be in the football, the hurling and everything, and it was kind of just camogie for girls in school anyway.
I gave up
Sometimes
most
hockey.
sport when I broke my ankle. I still do like gym and exercise, a little bit of exercise anyway. But I gave up most team sports after I broke my ankle in secondary school.
They say in this survey as well, carried out by Amorc, that only 1 in 4 people have been to see a ladies' game, be it soccer, be it camogie, be it football.
So my gang at home now are going to see a lot more of the ladies' football, particularly the soccer in Cork City and things like that. They're getting really, really into it because, you know what, and I think that's what the great thing about the World Cup is. It's a beautiful game to watch. For all their slangy about women can't play football, they were glued to the Ireland match the other day. And it's all good, and sure, as you said, even though Cork aren't in it, we are in for a cracking final.
Okay, well, look, we
do you play any organised sport?
What?
Do you play any organised sport?
Right now, no, but I did.
No.
I did.
I'm more of a solo gym goer. Don't even like working out with a pal.
I kind of built for comfort, not for speed. Me.
But the thing is, the same 1 in 4 have gone to see a women's sporting event. I think last night there were 2 cracking semi-finals going on. There was hardly anybody there in Semple Stadium watching it. Whereas today, people are digging up ground and promising different organs just to get a ticket for the All Ireland men's final. So
well, some people in some counties are, not everybody. Anyway, after the break, we'll be talking turtles and all the rest coming to screens this week. See you in 3.
Welcome back. The ever reliable Cillian O'Sullivan is joining us now with the list of everything worth watching this week.
We'll start with a look at the amazing career of Irish icon Sinead O'Connor, whose documentary Nothing Compares is back on now this weekend. Let's take a look.
Some Mandinka with Jake's baby girl in the back of my pants, and I had Public Enemy's logo painted into the side of my head. They decided they wouldn't go to the Grammys, quite rightly, because they were protesting.
I protested the Grammys in 1989 because they refused to recognize rap music and hip-hop as a legitimate musical category. I thought it was like admirable when she put the Public Enemy logo in her head. With Sinead O'Connor, you didn't get the sense that she was just being pretentious or she was fake. It was like, yeah, she seriously has issues with this. This is what's going to drive her artistry. She's committed to that.
Cillian, I have to say, over the last few days, my social media has been full of, you know, these amazing Sinead O'Connor stories.
Yeah.
And you realise how admirable she was and loved by so many in the music community because of her voice. It wasn't just about the art, it was also about the politics behind it all. And
Exactly,
uncovering
the
stories
double
like
meaning
this.
of her voice. It
Yeah.
wasn't just how powerful she was when she was recording, it was the way she used her voice. And my God, what a woman. This documentary, I think, should be compulsory viewing for everybody in the country because people will have heard stories and will know. And, you know, there'll be all these urban legends about her. But to hear a lot of these stories in her own words in this documentary, talking about that very famous night in 1992 when she was on SNL. And in rehearsals, you see, this is when she tore the picture of the Pope. In rehearsals, she had been planning to hold up, or she'd been holding up a picture of the Brazilian child, and it was she wanted to use this as a moment for activism. So that's why they all thought there was nothing going astray when she was bringing up the picture, to only reveal it was the Pope and then tearing it up. And then she talked about the backlash of that. And the following week, Joe Pesci was hosting SNL, and he said some awful things about her. But it never stopped her. There's this one line in the documentary that it stopped me in my tracks. And she says, they tried to bury me.
Yeah.
Little did they know I was a seed.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, this woman's amazing. So yeah, this documentary is just beautiful. It really
And
is.
you mentioned a part of it in her own words, and then we hear stories from...
So this is it. The documentary makers sat down with Sinead, so we're hearing about all this stuff directly from her. And then also you have that, you've got these, you know, people who've been affected and influenced by her over the last number of decades in the industry. And you know, she says herself, you know, she never wanted to be a pop star. That's not, it wasn't the route for her. And she was asked about that night on SNL when she tore up the picture of the Pope. And she's like, you're not aware of the fact that, like, you ruined your career? And she goes, I didn't ruin the career I wanted. I ruined the career my label wanted me to have, because then they were going to be able to buy second and third holiday homes.
Yeah.
And I don't care about them.
Yeah.
She was just so pure and so true to what she believed in that people like that, they don't really exist much anymore.
Well, she's a maverick. And as we saw there in that clip when she was on stage, shortly after that SNL appearance, it was Chris Christopherson, another maverick, who came to her and said, yeah, and started talking to her about haters on stage with a mic close by. He didn't do that because he knew there was a mic close by. He knew that because he thought, here's a kindred spirit just like me.
Yeah, it is.
No, like a massive, massive loss. And we can watch that on now. Right now.
Yeah, it's available from today. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about Heartstoppers.
Yeah, season 2. So season 1 of this was kind of a surprise sleeper hit for Netflix. It's coming of age, LGBTQ plus kind of themed comedy drama about these kids who are discovering who they are as people whilst trying to navigate the difficult world of school. And the first season, as I said, was a huge hit. It's actually got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, you know, only happens few and far between. So in terms of dealing with teenagers and what teenagers are currently going through, I think this does it really well.
Yeah.
Even down to the fact that they don't have a lot of scenes where they'll have the teenagers talking directly to each other. They'll do it over phone, through instant messaging, through social media.
So social media's incorporated.
So it's all
very
incorporated
now.
because that's exactly how these, you know, kids nowadays interact. That is how they communicate. So yeah, it's one of those shows that's done really well. And if you're a fan of season 1, you'll be delighted to hear that season 2 is back, and it's dropping next Thursday on Netflix with all 8 episodes.
Okay. Now these were a big hit in my house. Yeah.
These have been a big hit in my life since I can remember. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power.
So this is the latest iteration. It is, you can see, animated. It's actually produced by Seth Rogen, who's known for more adult kind of comedy movies, but they kind of bring that quirkiness in through this. The voice cast in this, it's a who's who, probably of Seth Rogen's Rolodex, because there's a lot of the familiar names that he works with. But you've got so John Cena, Paul Rudd, Jackie Chan, Post Malone, Maya Rudolph. There's like
Seth Rogen has to be involved in it,
and Seth himself is going to be in there as well. Yeah.
And these are people who we love from the comedies that are usually associated with Seth Rogen. So are there going to be certain undertones of comedy in this?
Yeah, this from what I gather, haven't seen it yet, but what I gather, this is one of those animated movies whereby the kids are going to love it for the action, and then also the parents that are bringing them along are going to get something out of it.
I would imagine the voice talent for the turtles themselves are new actors.
So this is what Seth Rogen was kind of really focused on, the teenage element of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, in that these are positioned in this movie as younger kids, so that they kind of have that sort of, you know, viewing the life of these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles through the prism of teenagers, where they're trying to be accepted in New York in a world that isn't accepting of them. So there's a young up-and-coming cast who are voicing the four turtles.
And even the picture of it, sorry, I was just going to say, it kind of gives a nudge to the Spider-Man, like Into the Spider-Verse, animation version
Exactly,
of that.
this is kind of almost influences of anime coming across. Seth Rogen says he kind of wanted the animation to feel like you were just quickly describing it in the back of a copybook as you would in school, you know? So there's that kind of, there's like extra lines drawn out. It's not all painted between the lines, and there's all those kind of elements of it being a little bit fast and loose, but, you know, stylistically beautiful.
Okay. Apparently, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when they first broke on the scene, the sale of pizza went through the roof. Because that's all they ever ate.
Yeah.
That's all they ever ate.
Oh, Michelangelo loved the pepperoni pizza.
That is in cinemas.
That's in cinemas from tomorrow, yeah.
Amazing. And now we've got Wolf on BBC One. That's tomorrow from 9.
So, yeah, look, BBC do these kind of things really well. They're a thriller, crime miniseries, 6 episodes.
I saw the first series of this and I was really impressed.
Tell you what's really good about this is that it tells 2 parallel stories at the same time, jumping from one to the other. One is about this detective superintendent who is obsessed with a neighbour of his who he's convinced killed his 10-year-old brother 30 years ago. So there's this kind of obsession around this man. And then there's this other story where these rich aristocrats are being held captive in their beautiful big home by these 2 terrors. And there's these 2 parallel stories throughout the course of, you know, the 6 episodes. And then there is an unlikely connection, is all I'll say. But again, it's
the 2 stories combined.
There is something that links them.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say, because you don't want to go too spoiler light. This is a real kind of mix of, like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, whodunit kind of elements to it, and then you've got that crime thriller aspect to it as well.
So
I actually might be mixing that up with something else that I saw on the BBC last year. So anyway, but we look forward to this.
Okay, exciting stuff. And now we've got Cold Case Forensics on Virgin Media 1. That's also tomorrow.
Yeah, so look, we already know that people love watching these, you know, drama TV shows about the forensics and, you know, how they capture criminals. And sometimes you might think it's a bit far-fetched. Well, this is a documentary series actually including people who are forensic scientists.
Yeah,
They go and they break down how they cracked cases. And the one particular case, and again, I'm going to go spoiler light, but they did catch the murderer. And how they caught the murderer was by the way that he opened a door. And that's all I'll say.
Wow.
But this is where they're literally going into this world, and Netflix do this a lot with their documentary series, where they'll actually reconstruct rooms where a murder might have happened to see if they can kind of replicate a tear in wallpaper. How vigorous would the tear have to have been to get this type of tear? And all these little details, which all help paint a picture as to who the murderer could be. Put it all together, and then hopefully you get a profile of somebody that you can arrest. And in a lot of cases, because of forensics, it is, you know, the way that we have been, I say we as if I'm some way involved, but the way that, you know, we've been able to capture some really evil people and put them behind bars for a long time. So this is great to see, not a dramatized version of it. This is actually how it's done.
Yeah, the facts. And I know so many like crime podcast lovers will probably love
all
this.
Over this, all over this, yeah.
Okay, that's on telly tomorrow night, Virgin Media 1.
Yes, indeed it is, yeah.
Amazing, Cillian. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, sir. Up next, the world's #1 fan of soup, comedian Alison Spittle will be here. Welcome back. From her humble beginnings in Mullingar to shows, telly and podcasts across the UK, it's safe to say that comedian Alison Spittle is one of our very best exports.
So modest there. Now, Alison joins us now ahead of her new show playing at the Dublin Fringe, simply titled Soup. Good morning, Alison. Thank you so much for joining us, because I know you've had a busy few days.
Oh, I've been wrecked. I've been at the Paddy Power Comedy Festival. I'm there at 4:30 today. Still tickets available, lads. Never too early to get a plug in, is there?
No.
But yeah, I've been here for the weekend, and I'm heading over to Edinburgh, and then I'm coming back to do the Dublin Fringe. So it is busy. It's very busy.
You got really embarrassed when we were introducing you there.
Yeah, because I'm Irish. You can't
be having notions.
You can't be saying any achievements or anything positive. If you were like, this one, she's grand, I'd be like happy with that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Or how do you're looking at me like it's an Oprah moment now.
Yes, we will go deep into this now. No, but in fairness, how do you actually do it? Because you're coming from the festival in the Ivy Gardens over to Edinburgh, then the Dublin Fringe. It's like a marathon. Do you have to put your liver into training for something like that?
You do. It's mad. Well, I just love my job, and I love I suppose in the summertime is busy, and then around Christmas time is busy, and then sure I'm lazing about in the autumn and spring like a hedgehog, really. So it's good to be busy, but it's mad kind of dealing with hecklers and stuff like that. That gets your adrenaline going, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one yesterday.
Go on.
If she's watching, well. She was booing. She was booing in the middle. It was. I'd never had it before.
Actual saying boo.
Boo, like she was in the doll or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just chatting away. So, I can't say what I said to her this morning, but got a clap after it anyway. I was delighted.
Okay, so it wasn't. It was something.
I told her to
sharp.
put the boo somewhere.
Okay.
You know,
where the sun don't shine.
Exactly.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with that normally? Because it's nerve-wracking enough, I would imagine, going up on stage night after night. I mean, whatever about having a talent for it. I mean, it's a live audience, and it depends. It's a different beast every time you go on stage.
It is. But I can't drive, so I look at people who can drive, and I'm like, how'd you do that? Do you know, that type of thing. But it is. It's nerve-wracking. But I kind of feel it's weird. I feel powerful on stage, and I don't feel powerful anywhere else. So I don't know why, but I kind of love having a microphone in my hand, and I love having people having to listen to me. You know, maybe I should have got into the priesthood. I don't know. Do you know?
I don't think you're allowed.
Okay, fair.
You feel appendages that aren't allowed
at the moment.
At the moment. Yeah, so I'll have to do a comedy until then. Yeah.
Anyway, your latest show is called Soup.
It is called Soup.
Why?
Because you have to come up with a title early in the year, and that's the real answer. But also, I love soup. I'm in a little WhatsApp group going 7 years. Soup Share. Hello, everybody. It's a long-running WhatsApp group. It's 7 years, which is longer than any WhatsApp family any family WhatsApp group I've ever had. This is the longest-running WhatsApp group I've ever been in. Why not? Do you not love soup?
Yeah, but I do. I enjoy a good soup, but not enough to create a WhatsApp group. How did it start in the first place?
Well, there was this lady called Fiona, and she was tweeting that she was going to do 5 soups in a work week. I supported her in that. And then she set up a WhatsApp group for people that were like-minded in their love of soup. So you'll send in a picture of the soup, and then people will say, talk us through, which means tell us about the flavour. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Give us more detail. And it's the best corner of the internet, because no one's around with each other. It's all just a shared love of soup.
Happy place.
Very happy. Yeah, what's your...
Safe place.
Yeah.
There's only so many soups you can make, though. So, are you repeating things?
I have a feeling we might be educated here on this one now.
There's so many soups. Every country has a different soup. You can have it hot, cold, chunky, brothy, everything. There is as many different soups as there are people in this world, you know?
Okay.
And I don't discriminate against any soups.
Yeah.
I love them all.
What's your favourite?
Today...
today it's a daily thing,
soup du jour, baby.
Yeah, okay.
Soup of the day. You know what I mean? I'm not nailing my colours to any mast for Today I like... what am I going to go? Minestrone. I like a minestrone.
Okay.
Well, it's a great fridge cleaner. Do you know what I mean? You just pasta, vegetables, a tin of tomatoes, throw it down. You feel like a little chef. So you do.
Okay.
What's your
and then you
favourite
photograph
soup?
it and put it on your WhatsApp group.
Yeah. Or funeral soup. That's my favourite soup.
That's the vegetable soup, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know, if you go to a funeral, a good funeral of good catering, they'll have a big tureen of soup and it's just like plain vegetable that you get out of
But
a
it's
packet.
decent.
It is decent, and also look, if you're crying a few tears, it salts it up as well. You know,
Okay. When
condiment.
you talk about a good soup is cleaning out your fridge, and I thought it's a funeral soup when you're cleaning out their presses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There we go. You get both
it works
done.
the same way.
There we
Kinda
go.
works the same way.
Vern.
All right. You've also, as part of the show,
Yes.
worked in
Yes.
quite a traumatic event that happened to you. And
do you know what, Martin? When you were saying that, I was like, is that the wedding or is that the robbery?
robbery.
Well, there can be both. So I have this thing called CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which comes from basically if you've trauma in your life and you're getting panic attacks and stuff, which I was getting. I think I got it from a time where I came back from my house. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And I was watching a bit of Graham Norton. This is not the traumatic bits. These were happy. And then a fella came down the stairs and he robbed me. So he
was already upstairs.
Yeah, I thought it was my landlady. I was
Oh my
calling her
God.
down. But it was a fellow with a pillowcase over. So if you're watching that, hello, how are you getting on? But yes, so it was very traumatic. And I kind of realised one of the therapies you go through when you have CPTSD is you have to go through the memory again and again. And at the end, the therapist will say to you, and what happened? And you eventually, I was okay. And you're kind of retraining your brain to say, don't panic, it'll all be okay. But the problem is, I was doing stand-up at the time, and anything bad that happens to me, I'm like, remember that now, Alison, and make stand-up out of it. So I could only just remember the routine and not the actual memory, which I thought was mad, and so I wanted to do a show about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you about it now, though?
I'm grand, and what do you mean, like with
Are you still having panic attacks? Or are you still...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's, part of life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know, it's just, I don't think there'll be, any cure or anything like that, but, there will be a cure. But also, you never stop being afraid of stuff. I'm not afraid to go on stage, but I'm afraid to, go into my house or, be alone on the
And do
street.
you think because you're using it for a routine, you'll never come to terms with it? Is that a...
That's and I think that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to figure out with the show.
Yeah.
And it's even because I'm going over to Edinburgh to do the show, and it's such a hard thing to do because I don't want to make myself sad while doing the show, because if you're an audience member, you don't want to be worried about me or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I want to make it really funny and not make people go, oh no. But I want to do it about that because it's a thing that I think about. And I love talking about stuff on stage that people don't talk about normally, like soup.
Yeah.
You know,
Soup
soup
and
and
post-traumatic
CPTSD.
stress disorder.
Soup disorder, yeah. That's definitely it, yeah.
you could also talk about putting the heart crossways in both your mother and your boyfriend.
Oh, are we talking about
This is a recent post.
I love this. You had the hands
I
on the
texted
knees.
her after it
You
myself.
did. She was lovely. Very congratulatory.
This is Alison EastEnders and
Yes.
a post.
was the
And a
best
post,
one.
have you got that? So, so I was very excited. I got a part in EastEnders. The way I auditioned for it, they sent in a self-tape, and I wore my best Pat Butcher earrings, which were there's myself there. Do you know what's funny there? I was going in for hair and makeup, and the makeup lady read the script and goes, "Oh, you're supposed to be a bit of a rough mummy," and then she just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're done."
Charming.
Yeah. So that's
So the setting of that, you were in a maternity
ward, which is and it was brilliant because it was on the studios that make EastEnders. So they drove me around, and I'm looking at the Queen Vic, and I'm so excited. It's like I was at Disneyland, and they were so lovely. Shona, who plays Whitney, she took pictures of me in the Queen Vic and everything, because I think they like it when a fan a fan comes on. Do you know, it's
Going
nice.
back to the social media post, so put the heart crossways on your mum.
Back to that. So it's a pregnancy pouch. I got a pregnancy pouch, and I took a picture of it because it's like getting a fake mustache. You know, you'll take a selfie.
I don't really
You go,
need a
how do I?
fake one,
Do you
now, to be
know? No. And I said, I've been keeping this secret a long while. ... I'm on EastEnders. Oh, there we go. There she is. And some newspapers came out an hour or so after, and they were like, Alison Spittle is pregnant with first child. And my mum rang me up and she was like, well, you'll tell a newspaper, but you won't tell your own mammy. And I had to explain to her that this was for EastEnders and that's an act and everything.
Well, on that lovely note, we leave it there.
I know.
That and many more stories to come on your show. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute delight. And a reminder, of course, that Alison's new show, Soup, will be performed at the Dublin Fringe Festival nightly from September the 13th to the 17th.
15 minutes left of Ireland AM. We're back right after this break, so stay with us.
Very welcome back. Well, what's your favourite ice cream? We sent our Derek down to make his very own.
And hopefully he'll save us a scoop or
Take
two.
it away, Derek.
Actually, we're not going to Derek.
Oh.
I love this.
I knew you were up to
I
something.
love this.
I
because
knew you were
guys
up to
are always so
something.
in control, are completely out of control, and you are in my hands for the next few minutes.
Oh.
So, today is International Friendship Day. As you know, you've been reading out lovely messages all morning. And you guys sit here every week, and we feel like we know you. We feel like we're your friends. But do we really know you? I don't know if we do until we get the answer to some questions. So what better way to do that than invite your best friends onto the show this morning? We have Martin's brother, Paul. Come on out, Paul.
Wait, are you mad?
Elaine's friend, Teresa. Come on out, Teresa. And Kath, your friend from Erasmus. It's Hazel.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
this is brilliant.
This is it.
She visited me with pyjamas last night and she never even told me.
They have been struggling to keep this under wraps all week, as if all the producers and the band up behind the scenes. I love this. In a world that's so full of rehearsals for you
You're in
guys,
trouble.
you are out of your depth right now. So what we're going to do...
I was looking forward to ice cream.
Is it going to be much more fun for us than ice cream, Martin?
All
So
right.
what we're going to do is play a game of who is most likely to, right? So first up, Hazel and Teresa, I'm going to get you over to the soft set. Martin, you come on over here. Paul, stay where you are. So this is going to be fun. We have blown the budget on paddles.
And look at you in your blue as well.
Yeah, imagine.
All right.
So we have paddles here. Martin, your face on one side. Paul, your face on the other side, right? So you take yours. You take yours. And we're going to ask a series of questions.
Right.
And just tell us, who do you think is most likely to, right? And then we'll get an idea as to, well, who the real Martin King is and not the version that we see here every Sunday morning and Saturday morning. So first up, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Lads.
Yeah.
Who is the most likely to get a tattoo?
Oh.
Oh, so you have a tattoo, I assume, then?
Well, there's a few of them.
Who is most likely to be the worst driver? Really?
Yeah.
Who was written off a car between both of you?
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. We
he
won't get
wrote
into
my
that.
car off the day before I was selling it. Yeah, that's some story. We won't tell it now.
You didn't get much for it the next day, did you?
I got nothing for it. I had to sell parts of it.
Who, between the two of you lads, is most likely to forget a wedding anniversary? Oh, okay. I feel like we opened a can of worms with this one.
Yeah.
So the next one, who's most likely to forget to pay a bill?
Oh.
Oh, okay. Split decision on that one, lads. Okay, this is a real telling. Who's most likely to admit that they're wrong?
Ooh.
I have to say me.
Yeah, well, I'm saying you as well.
Is there a stubbornness there, Martin?
Yeah, there is a bit of a stubbornness all there. Yeah.
So, between the two of you lads, who's most likely to cry during a movie?
Ooh.
Okay.
Split as well.
You think you're so
We're very sensitive souls.
Well, I think we got to know you a little bit there. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much for giving us an insight into Martin. Lads, you can take your seat over at the side.
Come on, let's go on. This is cool. Out this way.
Now, I think it's time to get to know Elaine a little bit better.
Come on, Elaine.
Come on over, Elaine and Teresa.
Can I just say, before anything is said in this whole thing, she's probably lying.
Oh, you see, this is it, Teresa. We'll get you beside me here. I'll give you your paddle. So you guys first met, 2015? You were both dancing for Strictly.
She didn't like me. She thought I was,
Initially?
no, she didn't like me at all. She came up bouncing up to me and she didn't like me at all. She thought I was a stuck-up you-know-what.
And okay,
And then-
well,
but
we'll
then changed my
get
mind.
down to the crux of it now, straight into it. Between the two of you girls, who's the funniest? This would be between the two of you, who's the quietest? Okay, wouldn't have thought that now.
No, there you go. She
Who's
never shuts
most
up.
likely to get arrested? I think I know the answer to this next one, but who's the better cook? Yeah, surely it's not Elaine. It's a good omelette.
These are grand questions, actually. I was getting quite worried because I know Billy probably made them up.
Between the both of you, who's most likely to say sorry first? Ah, soft Elaine, soft.
She never says sorry.
Who's
I'm
the
never
most
wrong.
flirtatious?
were way more flirtatious
No,
than me.
you were.
You get in trouble all the time.
So here's a good one. Who's most likely to send a text message to the wrong person accidentally? Yeah, Elaine's not great with the old technology.
Not really, no.
So you know what it is to be hangry, right? When you're so hungry, you're angry.
Yeah.
Who's most likely to get hangry? Okay.
She is a weapon.
Keep Teresa fed. That's what we're learning here. Between the two of you, who's most likely to get caught texting their ex? There we go. And then the last one, who's most likely to join a cult? Thank you so much, guys. Thanks for giving us more of an insight.
Thank you very
into
much.
Elaine. You can make your way back over.
She's
to
even,
the
she's even made me be her chief bridesmaid.
Well, that's it.
And I said I'd never do it again. Which way am I going? This way?
Right, come on in, Hazel and Kath. Same story with you guys. You get a paddle each. We're finally going to get to know a little bit more about the newest addition to the Ireland AM team. OK, Hazel, Kath, let's get into it. Who's the most likely to win an argument?
I'm going to say myself.
OK, she makes a good point.
I'm quite sober enough. Okay.
Between the two of you, who's the clumsiest? Who's most stubborn?
I'm gonna, yeah.
Yeah,
I know, I'm gonna both.
Both, yeah.
You know, yeah.
We have a moment.
Bit of
Yeah.
both. Okay, yeah, depending on the day of the week.
Yeah.
So who's most likely to break something and then not tell anyone about it? I feel there's a story there. We don't have time for it, but there is a story.
Don't spoil yourself.
Who's the most likely to forget to text back?
Wait, are you saying me?
Yeah.
I actually, to be fair, you're good with the voice notes.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, okay.
So who's the most likely to forget your birthday?
Oh, I'm gonna say myself. Because you never forget.
Yeah, I will never forget.
Like, she's like midnight on the dot.
Okay.
She'll send you, and she'll sing you a happy birthday.
Yeah.
I love my voice notes. So.
I need to get friends with you because that's good. So the last one then, who's most likely to cancel plans last minute?
Ooh. We both are. But then secretly we're happy we did
You have moments, you know, when you know you don't want, you're like, oh, I'm a bit tired.
That's true friendship.
Yeah.
As long as you don't cancel your big trip this week, you'll be grand.
Not today.
Thank you so much, Hazel. You've definitely given us an insight into Kath. And thank you for playing along, guys. That is all from me. Look at the guys doing selfies over there.
No, we are listening to you.
We are, sorry,
I'm still missing the ice cream, though. All right. Earlier on, we barbecued up some beef brisket, and here's how we did it. Season the beef brisket with a mix of spices. Set the barbecue to 120 degrees Celsius for 5 hours, spraying with cider vinegar every 2 hours to keep it moist. Remove your brisket after 5 hours and wrap in foil for 30 minutes. Using a sharp knife, cut against the grain of the meat for the most tender slices. When you're ready, serve with Japanese cucumber and pickle salad for an extra bit of crunch.
Coming up tomorrow, we speak to Grammy-winning singer-songwriter Ruth Ann on her viral proposal moment.
We chat to horse breeder and widow of the late jockey Pat Smullen. Frances Crowley joins us.
We catch up on the latest in showbiz, plus we're cooking up some orange chicken in the kitchen.
I think you should read this bit.
No, all that.
No. Teresa.
Me?
Oh, you. Yeah.
All that plus news, sport and weather. You're waking up to Muireann and Tommy and Alan are back tomorrow from 7.
There you go.
That's all right. All right, we have been talking about friendships. When did you find out about this?
Tuesday.
You were only speaking yesterday. I'm like, how did you...
She came up to me last night with
Looked at the ground. I just couldn't look at her. I was like that the whole
with
time.
a bridesmaid dress for me to try on because I'm her maid of honour at Christmas. And she had that on, and she was like, oh, there's the pyjamas in case you need a nice night's sleep tonight, la 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 la.
I know I could tell you a secret and you'd keep it for life then. Because you didn't give it any hints.
I'll see you next
She's
time.
the bag of line person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we have another friend, Eleanor, as well, bag of line person.
So you bring the line, she'd bring the shovel.
Absolutely. She knows where all the bodies are
crazy.
buried.
It's kind of crazy. That was a real surprise. Great to see you.
Yep.
You guys are the spits of one another, by the way. Oh my goodness.
Twins.
Image.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Are you going to the match together?
Look at this. We're in blue.
Together, though.
Yeah.
No, not
Sitting
going
together,
together.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
All in blue.
Well, anyway, up the dubs.
Up the dubs. On the dubs.
Go on, Kerry.
Go from Cork.
I know, but you know, we have to share the love here. Plus, I'm